Rich countries continue to lead their developing counterparts in innovation, given their advanced technology and sturdy infrastructure. But according to this year's Global Innovation Index, innovation-driven growth is no longer the prerogative of high-income countries alone. Here to tell us more is Bruno Lanvin, the Executive Director of Global Indices at INSEAD, and he joins us now. Bruno, thanks for being here.
Morning.
Bruno, Switzerland continues to dominate, followed by the UK and Sweden, but there are some exciting developments from the emerging world this year. How would you characterize the top movers of 2015?
It is true that we don't see much change at the top of the rankings of GII this year. We still have Switzerland, UK, Sweden, Netherlands, and the US, to quote only the first five. But we see the gap narrowing between this group of leaders and a number of middle-income countries. China, for instance, 29, we have Malaysia, 32nd, and then we have other countries like Barbados, Chile, following close to those. This is largely the result of policies, which is the theme of the report this year. The reason why these innovation achievers are reaching the ranks they have reached is largely because they have identified innovation as a priority. They have fostered policies to establish the right type of institutions. They have pushed skilled labor through education systems, and they have fostered also better integration in credit, investment, and trade markets.
And the BRIC emerging countries are always a central part of this index. Who's leading there?
Yeah, right now we see Russia progressing by one rank at 48th. China remaining the same at 29. The other three BRICS are moving down. Altogether, it's a rather disappointing performance by the BRICS this year, which reflects the overall mood, commodity prices going down. So there's a number of reasons why we should not expect too much from the BRICS this year. This being said, we see significant progress on the quality of innovation, which has been a differentiator among the most advanced countries and is now becoming a priority for BRICS.
One thing that always characterizes the Global Innovation Index is divides, usually between rich and poor countries, but this year there's a reduction in the technology gap. What's driving that, and who's benefiting? New
technologies such as mobile telephony have become truly global. But we also see the most recent technologies, whether you look at cloud computing, big data, associated technology, 3D printing even, they're almost global from the start. So they are low-cost type of technology sometimes, otherwise they're established on global basis, and they contribute to diminish this gap. Yet, other divides remain that cannot be ignored. But from the point of view of technology alone, this has two main consequences on the front of innovation. The first one is that production costs are significantly diminished in a number of innovative areas, making emerging countries more competitive and therefore more innovative. The second one is that it displaces jobs. We see a number of semi-qualified or even sometimes highly qualified jobs migrating from rich countries to middle-income countries, and that contributes to give local entrepreneurs and innovators a wider range of opportunities.
The theme of this year's report is effective innovation policies for development. What does the report conclude about the most effective policies to encourage innovation?
Well, there are three key messages there. The first one is that policies matter. They do make a difference. It is a widely spread misconception about the success of Silicon Valley to describe it as something which has been driven entirely by the private sector. One cannot ignore the importance of large research programs, typically DARPA type of programs, which have been at the origin of the internet, for example. The same applies to policies to be developed in emerging countries. The involvement of the public sector is required to make the private sector successful in those areas. The second message is that institutions matter. As one of the founders of the European Union, Jean Monnet, was fond of saying, nothing starts without people, nothing lasts without institutions. And if these innovation policies are to be sustainable, they need to be able to rely on a set of institutions that only government can provide initially. And the third message is that innovation is about risk, and that cannot be forgotten. So the key question regarding policies is how could this risk become attractive? And there are three elements there. One is predictability. The second one is coherence. And the third element is about what you want to base your innovation policy on. And the elements that are not easily replicable have to do with geography, with history, and with culture. Each country who wants to develop its own innovation policy has to base them on these fundamental elements.
And if we look at Switzerland, which is usually the leader, people would naturally ask, what's the Swiss recipe for innovation?
There are at least three elements which are remarkable in terms of explaining the success of Switzerland. The first one is a strong historical engineering culture, which have made them globally competitive in industries starting with the clock industry, moving into pharmaceuticals, into sophisticated machine tools, energy equipment, for instance. The second one is a strong emphasis on education. And there is an originality in the Swiss model which combines both very high-level technical education, such as the one offered by the Polytechnic schools in Zurich and Lausanne in particular, but also the importance given to vocational training. We have a number of young people who are part of the industry at an early age and contribute to creating an innovative culture at the technical level. And the third element, and Switzerland had no choice, is being an open economy.
In last year's report, you found that R&D spending had steadily started to return to pre-crisis levels. But in the current environment of slowing growth, especially in China, how do you see this playing out?
Well, one of the trends we've seen in the GII since its creation is that R&D spending is largely counter-cyclical. If we look at the example of the European Union, for instance, which has been hardly hit by the crisis, even at the deepest level of the crisis, R&D spending has been somehow protected, at least from the public sector. We see that happening again. That is, the countries have understood that the worst thing that can happen in innovation policies is stop and go. So keeping the value of your investment includes continuing to invest even in times of crisis. And for example, in the case of China, where we see slower growth expectation for the year to come, we have no doubt that innovation expenditure are going to remain at high levels for the same reasons. In areas like avionics, for instance, in other critical areas like bioengineering, the value of the investment made in previous years would be significantly diminished if the spending went down. So we expect it to continue as the appetite for innovation remains.
Well, Bruno, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.